they should not be spending money out of their rainy day funds because Parks and Rec has a millage coming up next year, and they don't know where that's going to go. And communications is funded by fees. And communications is important, but I wouldn't put it high up on the list of priorities for deficit funding. And I have a question for Mr. Melzen. Do you have any projections for if this budget is approved as is? This budget is approved as is, Mr. Melzen. The 2011-2012 fiscal year budget. Do you have any idea what the projected deficit would be, structural deficit would be for fiscal year 2012-13?
Well, that's really hard to say at this point because of all the, at that point, hopefully we'll have 8 new union contracts, so.
Well,
let's say it's status quo. Everything stays the same.
Mr. Fox did projection based on how things, assuming that they don't change.
Correct.
Assuming that we don't get the statutory revenue sharing as high as it's supposed to be,
Right.
that we don't get changes in contracts, and that the status quo of the number of employees stays the same.
Yeah, we do have that status quo budget. I don't have the numbers here tonight, but yes, I do have that.
You have a rough idea of what that projected deficit would be?
I don't want to say at this point.
I'm asking.
What's that?
I'm asking.
Right, I'm saying I don't want to say because I don't remember the exact numbers. It's been a while since I've looked at those numbers because what I've been doing.
16 million sound about right?
I don't have the revenue numbers for the anticipated, say, 7 to 8% decrease in property taxes. So from that standpoint, again, I don't have an exact number to give you.
Well, you're looking at Macomb County's projecting for the whole county an 8.9% decrease, which I don't know if it'll be less for Warren because we've already suffered such high appreciations, or if it'll be higher or the same. But I think a 9% is a reasonable number to assume. Assuming that, you're looking at a $4.55 million reduction in the amount that the millages will bring in.
If you're going status quo and you're taking out the $4 million for the court, so you're saying this year we have an $11 million, if that's the direction you're going, I'm going to say it's going to be more than 11 million.
11.
More than 11.
More than 11. Does the administration, I'm just kind of surprised we don't have any more department heads. Maybe it's too long. Does the administration have any ideas of cutting the structural deficit? Does the administration have any more ideas on how to cut this $11 million structural deficit?
Absolutely. I mean, there's several things that we can do that the administration is talking about at this point, yes.
You want to share it with us?
I can say that, you know, if you just, it's things that everyone has already said at this table, there's millages that can be passed, there's concessions by all employees, there's, you know, trying to look for enhanced revenue items such as increasing, you know, various permits, et cetera, fees. So, I mean, you know, it's the same items that you guys have all discussed at this table over the last 2 months.
Anything the administration could implement now? $1 we save today is another $1 we save next year.
Sure. You know, again, you guys were all here when one of the firefighters said that they would talk to us about, you know, doing the summer winter vacations. We've contacted them and they won't talk to us about that issue for whatever reason. So those are items like that we could go down that path.
Well, I'm curious about the request for concessions. I mean, we went through contract negotiations with ASME, and we achieved some concessions. I don't want to use the word achieved. I hate it when anybody's paid go down, unless it's a sports figure, because it doesn't matter to me. But ASME went to a different health insurance plan. And it's supposed to be saving about $1 million a year. ASME also did not receive any pay hikes. no COLA. A reduction in, I believe, I'll probably get corrected, but 2 holidays, right? So, I don't know where this direction is headed when the administration has already negotiated with one of the major union in the city, received concessions. Are you saying that the administration wants more concessions?
I'm just saying that that's a possibility.
Mr. List?
I think this budget's gonna blow up.
Mr. Schemmel, you had a comment?
No. Thanks. I'll comment at some point. I guess I did. So I don't want to leave it up in the air. I guess, in any city, either you raise taxes or you cut expenses, right? I mean, there's no other option. I mean, it's one or the other. So I guess at some point, as you go down the line and as you get into extreme difficulty, and if you get no labor contracts, concessions that you want to have as you're going down the line, you're looking at layoffs. I mean, that's all that's left. There's nothing else that's left. We're trying not to do that. At this point, we don't think it's necessary at this point, but that's certainly in the future if as Councilman West so correctly points out, if the housing values continue to plummet, we can't expect to deliver the same services with less money. We can't expect to do that. So yeah, we can all sit here and argue about how we can cut expenses, and Rob and I and Mr. Simone's have conversations like that all the time, trying to figure out where we can save a dollar here and there. But at the end of the day, if we keep plunging as fast as we're plunging, then we'll have to have less employees. And I know, I'm just hearing an example here is, let's get rid of all the appointees. That's always very popular. For some reason, employees or appointees carries a connotation that's something that's bad. An appointee is a bad thing. But in this particular city, and I've been in a lot of cities, in this particular city we have a fair number of appointees. But when you consider what these appointees do, and many say, oh, because you're an appointee, you're worthless. I think people in Warren should realize that these appointees are not worthless. They're providing very important, I'm not interrupting you when you speak, so if you just would let me speak, I'd appreciate it. I think you got to realize that these appointees provide very important tasks in these cities. Rob's an appointee, I'm an appointee. Now, maybe you think we're worthless, but these people are very important. People think that they're greatly overpaid. I want to tell you, if you look at other cities, they aren't greatly overpaid. And they have led by example, which people say they don't, and I think they do. All of the appointees have taken all of the same cuts that the 5 unions took. Police and fire have not at this point. So I don't want to get on a tangent here, but I'm just saying, if all else fails, layoffs are going to be the only answer.
Thank you. Mr. List?
I don't know what prompted that.
Well, I had somebody jabbing me here, and I guess I got going.
I'm firmly convinced that too many appointees.
Pardon?
I'm firmly convinced there's too many.
That's fine. I know that's just fine.
And
I
I
mean-
know when you were working for Tramick
Yeah,
and E-Course,
yeah.
yeah, I've talked to some of your former employees.
Are you trying to tell me they didn't like
I want
me?
to stick to our budget. We need to establish what's the priorities of our budget.
But the point is that if you're not going to have some savings now, if we had implemented, let's say, the full levy on the police and fire retirement millage 4 years ago, 3 years ago, then you're talking about $10.5 million. So what's going to happen if we don't have any savings or raise that revenue that we can? That next year we're going to have to ask for an astounding millage increase. So we could have implemented all those changes and asked for a couple of mills. Now we're going to have to ask for 3, 4, 5 mills. And then with heavily in proposal A, it's just going to jiggle all that down again. It'll push off again what's the inevitable. So that's my point. And I'm not seeing that the administration is, first, they're not recommending an increase in the millage. I have to disagree that the appointed staff has led by example when they took the same cuts as the unions. They were behind the course on that one. The unions
Yeah.
took the hit.
You and I will
the appointed
disagree
ones
on
took the
that.
hit.
You and I will disagree, but that's
Can I
okay.
interrupt you for 1 second? I have a comment in regards to the millage. Okay, my position on the millage, like you mentioned, having raised it 2, 3 years, 4 years ago, cumulatively, we'd have roughly $10 million. My opposition to that, though, is that in doing that, where do we put the benchmark to the unions to make concessions or to settle the contracts if the answer is always, well, it costs so much to have police, we gotta raise the millage. And because the pendulum swings both ways in the fact that, elected officials don't like voting for rate increases, period. But on the same token, you don't want to have a situation where you don't have police or fire protection because, people are upset. So I personally, and I'm just voicing my own opinion, but I personally appreciate that the standpoint was not just raise the millage because it just advocates the fact that there's no need for true concessions when I don't think, it's not to undervalue any city employee in any department. At this point, I think a ton of concessions, I know to the 5 unions have been made. And I think Mr. Schimmel talked about this before. We're looking now that this is a structural contract problem. I don't feel it's based in the fact that any one individual's making too much money or way out of whack in the rate of pay in regards to the union workers. And to get to that point, we've got to hold our ground and say that, we're not going to run out and charge the people automatically more money to keep funding things at the level they're at. That's my own.
You could tie the two together. You could tell you could make it clear to labor and staff that if we receive concessions, we'll either levy the millage or pull one on the ballot.
Good point. Ms. Comer?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think when you look at some part of the budget and with all of the departments and employees in each department doing more work for their job, they're all picking up the slack for everything else that's going on. And when they hear certain, whether it's appointees or what it is, getting raises, I think that has put a bad connotation on their efforts that they're putting in and the slack that they're picking up for everything. So I don't think raises are a good thing at all anywhere in this budget, with the